in some suburban and let's say affluent communities where resources such as money might not be an issue, sometimes those students don't get opportunities to really engage deeply about issues of race. Or those students don't get a chance to really necessarily, I'm not saying this, I'm not generalizing here, but just saying that sometimes those opportunities are not available to those students, and that directly impacts or shapes what happens to them not only in the school but outside of the space. So in schools with children with high populations of poverty and children who live in poverty, those students may not have opportunities to engage in, let's say, rigorous curriculum, or they may not have technology in ways that students in a different, more affluent community might have. And so what I mean is, when you don't have the opportunity to engage those materials or those resources, we're not playing from the same playing field, right? So we're focusing on a test score, i.e. achievement, but in essence, we really need to think about like the process, like we need to really think about why disparities exist between and among students in the classroom. And I'm really interested in this not only on a micro level, but also on a macro and a meso level. So, you know, how do policies, how do districts shape what happens to children in the classroom? Yeah, I think teachers matter. You know, I can't stress that enough. I really think that teachers can be the difference maker for children. At the same time, I think that we can't discount the realities that outside of school factors such as poverty, such as parental involvement, such as the unemployment rate, crime. We can't discount those outside of school factors, right? So on the one hand, I think that we sometimes in education in the U.S., we blame teachers for everything. We expect teachers to do all and to be all for all children. But the realities are that students are engaging and are dealing with, grappling with, navigating, negotiating difficult circumstances outside of school. And because of that, it can make it difficult for teachers to reach the needs of all children. However, we know that there are excellent examples of teachers and students who beat the odds. We know that there are teachers who develop the kinds of expectations, the kinds of relationships, who develop the content, the subject matter knowledge that's necessary for children to be successful. So I don't want to be one of those people who would say that teachers can do everything, can this notion that they're super women or super men. But I do think that we have to be mindful that teachers can play a huge role. So thank you for mentioning the book. I'm really proud of the book because I think it represents the best of me in a lot of ways. It's called Start Where You Are, But Don't Stay There: Understanding Diversity, Opportunity Gaps, and Teaching in Today's Classrooms. And what I try to do in that book is really outline teachers who are succeeding in the midst of situations where opportunities are not always where they should be. And so the areas that I focus on there are race. I talk about the necessity for teachers to not be colorblind, to really think about sort of how race impacts their work. So for instance, when you think about who teachers refer to the office, or who teachers refer to gifted education, or who teachers refer to special education, or the number of children expelled or who are sent to in-school suspension. What we find is that overwhelmingly African American and Latino students are the students who are receiving the short end of the stick in terms of who are referred to special ed, or who are sent, the students who are sent out for disciplinary infractions. And I think we have to be mindful of that. But if you approach the work from a colorblind perspective, to say, many teachers sort of adopt this notion that they just see students. I don't think about race. I don't see color. I don't see race. We do, as seeing beings, see, but we don't know how to see and talk about it in ways that I think might be useful. Another piece of it is it's about cultural conflict. So race is about culture, but culture encompasses so much more than race. So it's about, your values, your people's belief systems, the way they experience the world, their customs, their preferences. All those things have to do with culture. And when I'm talking about culture, I'm really talking about all students, not only African American, Latino, or Asian students. I'm talking about students who are white, who are wealthy. Each of us is a member of various cultural groups, and they're dynamic. They're constantly changing and evolving. So I'm not saying that we're operating in some static cultures, but we have to be mindful of those as teachers, so that when those clashes or those conflicts emerge, we're able to navigate and negotiate them. And the third component of the framework is about meritocracy. And it is this belief that people are rewarded and are in the positions they are because of their merit, because of things that they have done so well in their lives. And what I've come to understand is that it's not so much that teachers don't understand that, or it's not so much that I'm arguing that teachers should not hold students accountable, or that teachers shouldn't have high expectations for students. What I'm saying is that factors outside of hard work, ability, aptitude can contribute to and do contribute to student success and people's success in society. And so a lot of times teachers sort of operate from I'm going to be tough, and if students are not doing well, it's because they're not putting forth effort, and you have to earn your right. And so, and if we're honest, most of us are in the positions we are, and most of us have been able to matriculate and navigate situations because people have given us chances, right? If some folks have trust funds, right? And those, they rely on their great-grandparents or their great-great-grandparents or even their parents to do things and to be able to succeed. And so I think it's just really helping people understand, and helping teachers understand that factors far outside of merit give people their positions in society. A fourth layer of the framework is about expectations, and it's about reversing low expectations and deficit mindset. So some teachers believe that particular populations of students can't succeed. The strongest predictor of academic achievement, the strongest in-school predictor of academic achievement is academic rigor, and that's teacher expectation all day, all night. So we have to help teachers understand and really situate themselves in a framework, if you will, such that they understand that every child can succeed. And just because that student has not been successful in the past, just because data might suggest that particular populations are not, or particular even gender groups are not successful in a particular domain, does not mean that we can stop doing the work that's necessary, because the power, I would argue, is really in the pedagogy and the instruction. And then the fifth component of the framework in the book is about social context. So some people believe that all one needs to do to become a successful teacher is to learn how to teach a subject matter. If you learn how to teach geography or geometry or literacy, then everything else works itself out. And from what I've come to understand about meeting the needs of diverse learners, teachers have to be mindful of the various layers of the social context. So I'm teaching mathematics, or I'm teaching language arts in a particular place, with particular people, with a particular history and current situations that frame socio-culturally the perspectives and the situations and experiences that children have. I think at the heart of successful teaching and learning are two things. One, and I would say this is probably true in various social contexts, not only urban or highly diverse settings. The first piece, I think, is about the mindset. So the way you think about, approach your belief systems about populations of students, about the subject matter, about your colleagues, about policies that are developed or enacted have huge bearings on what you're going to do. So your thinking matters, right? Mm-hmm. The idea is that the glass is half empty, but it's also glass half full, right? So really associating with it's always telling to me when I get a sense of who's hanging out with whom, right? In a school, the teachers who come up to me when I give professional development, in service, the folks who come up to me and who are completely negative and say that these kids can't learn, you haven't been in my school, that tells me something. Because chances are if I go talk to their best friends or the people with whom they hang out, chances are they're going to have a similar mindset. So the mindset, man. The second piece is that relationships matter, and so developing positive relationships with students is critical to being able to teach content. It's this notion that you can't teach little Johnny science if you don't know Johnny, right? You got to be, and Johnny has to. What the research would suggest is that some students would not even allow you to teach them until they feel like they know you. They feel like they feel comfortable with you, and that you care about them beyond what's going on in the classroom. And so in terms of thinking about the potential, the capacity of students, I think it's critical that teachers are very mindful of and deliberate about trying to develop relationships, and I think in a similar way understand that students may be in a particular place right now, but they have the potential and the capacity to do great things.